American flag still blowing quite vigorously here near the countdown clock at the press site. SpaceX did have a fairly short window for tonight's mission at just 10 minutes. It appears as though SpaceX, unfortunately, will not be able to launch tonight, as the countdown clock has stopped, and it appears a scrub is in effect. The backup window for SpaceX and this mission is coming up tomorrow night, same time, 8:14 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1:14 UTC. We are currently standing by for official word from SpaceX, but again, it is our understanding that they have scrubbed tonight's launch attempt for the Falcon Heavy rocket launching the USSF 52 mission. The next available launch attempt for this rocket and this mission is on the books for Tuesday evening at 8:14 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1:14 UTC. We're awaiting word from either SpaceX or U.S. Space Systems Command to confirm that they are in fact targeting that backup time. So we'll go ahead and stay with you until we hear that official update. In the meantime, taking a look at the live chat, really appreciate the folks that were supporting our coverage tonight. Chris Stallings with a $5 super chat says, "Go Falcon Heavy," and a little bit of a disappointment in that comment coming in before we had a word of the scrub tonight, as was Artemis's $5 super chat, saying, "Tell you what, if the chat can raise another $100 in support, I'll match it," which is a very kind gesture, Artemis. Really appreciate that. Unfortunately, we are not going to see a launch from the Falcon Heavy tonight, but we certainly hope that we'll see you the next time Falcon Heavy launches, or assuming that the Starlink launch is still a go-ahead in a few hours. Love to see you back there then. Steve Frazier with a $10 super chat. Also before we got word that there was a scrub, saying "Go Flight." Thank you for the support, Steven. And our newest channel member, Dan Johnson, joining at the mission specialist level. Really appreciate that support, Dan. And these super chat donations and channel membership help us to do what we do here at Spaceflight Now, support our team, but also push us closer towards increasing our technical capabilities. One of the things that we're striving towards is being able to provide live launch coverage in 4K for all the missions here at the Cape. And we do have word now from SpaceX. They say they're, quote, "standing down from tonight's Falcon Heavy launch due to a ground side issue. Vehicle and payload remain healthy. Team is resetting for the next launch opportunity of the USSF 52 mission, which is no earlier than tomorrow night." Again, SpaceX points to SpaceX says there is a ground issue, but the Falcon Heavy and the X-37B space plane are both healthy and in good condition. They know that they're targeting another launch opportunity, they say, which is no earlier than tomorrow night. Of course, we'll keep tabs to see if they do in fact go for that launch opportunity tomorrow night. So be sure to follow our social media. We're on Threads as well as X and Facebook for launch updates on this particular mission. So as we mentioned, SpaceX standing down from the launch of the Falcon Heavy rocket tonight. However, this was not the only operation that was on their dance card. They were also planning the launch of a Starlink mission, sending up 23 Starlink satellites to low Earth orbit using their Falcon 9 rocket you see there in the live picture of the center of your screen, that middle box. As of right now, SpaceX is still stating on their website that launch of this mission is targeting liftoff tonight at 11:05 p.m. Eastern Time, with backup opportunities available until 3 a.m. Eastern. We are also working to learn if they are in fact going to continue on with the Starlink launch tonight, or if the scrub of the Falcon Heavy mission will also have a knock-on effect of pushing back the Starlink launch to a later date. We are working to get that information, and as soon as we have that, we will pass that along to you. Of course, the other box there on the right-hand side of your screen, ULA's Vulcan rocket, still set for its wet dress rehearsal, take 2, after it was unable to complete its wet dress due to ground systems issues as well on their side. So unfortunately, it's been between Friday and today, just an issue with ground systems kind of across the board here. First with ULA with their first tanking test on Friday, and now with SpaceX on their Falcon Heavy launch. Teams there, of course, are working to save the vehicle as they are going to go in and do the work that they need to do and look at the next possible launch attempt that they can for the Falcon Heavy vehicle. Again, their phrasing is that it will be no earlier than tomorrow night. We'll have to wait and see if that is, in fact, their plan and their go-ahead. I want to thank Mel Roberts Harold for a $5 super chat. Says, even though tonight was a no-go, sure appreciate you all that are part of Spaceflight Now, for being at the ready. And we are more than happy to be at the ready, as these missions are important to cover, and we love doing that and bringing you information and real-time reporting. As soon as we learn things, we will update you in our audience so you can bring you along for the ride as well. As one of our main objectives here at Spaceflight Now, to not only bring you live launch pictures and coverage of the space program from tip to tail, but also to do thorough reporting and bring you breaking news as it happens, as was unfortunately the case with the scrub tonight. As we are winding down our coverage for the Falcon Heavy launch attempt tonight, we do have one more launch scheduled on the books. As I mentioned, it's the box in the middle of your screen, the Falcon 9, standing by ready to send up 23 Starlink satellites. Point of note, though, on that, when it came to the last Heavy that launched, that was for NASA's Psyche spacecraft going out to a Metal Ridge asteroid of the same name that launched just a couple months ago, back in October. NASA has a standing agreement with SpaceX that when they have a mission for them and a Starlink mission that is running fairly close by as far as schedule is concerned, the Starlink will come behind the NASA payload. So, for example, Psyche launched, and then it was the turn of the Starlink mission that came shortly thereafter. I believe it was actually later that day, if I recall correctly. So we don't know if there is a standing agreement like that between U.S. Space Systems Command and SpaceX, all of which is to say we are working to learn if the Falcon 9 with the Starlink mission will in fact stand down because the Falcon Heavy scrubbed, or if SpaceX will be going for that launch tonight. Assuming SpaceX does in fact go for the Falcon 9 launch tonight of the Starlink 6-34 mission. This is the countdown clock for that. So assuming that the Starlink mission is still in fact on tonight, this is the countdown clock for that. It stands at T-minus 3 hours, 9 minutes, 37 seconds. The opening of the launch window is 11:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it runs till just about 3 o'clock tomorrow morning, or exactly 3 a.m. on Tuesday, December 12th Eastern Time. Again, like with the Falcon Heavy, that launch window is not purely elastic. It's only if SpaceX does not start fueling that they are able to push back later into the window as needed. This will be the third flight for this particular Falcon 9 booster. Fairly young for SpaceX's fleet. It has only launched the Crew 7 mission and CRS-29, both flying this year, both with Dragon spacecraft that headed up to the International Space Station. In fact, the Dragon for the CRS-29 mission set to return not too long from now, I believe. Later this month is when it should undock from station and splash down off the coast of Florida. And some of the science on board will be recovered and sent back out to the researchers who need it. As we continue on through the countdown towards the Starlink mission, we'll be sure to keep you apprised of any updates that come our way where this mission is concerned. We'll jump into Launchpad Live for those updates, as well as post them on social media, primarily X, formerly known as Twitter. And speaking of that, we are getting word that the Starlink mission may also be scrubbed as well. We're waiting for confirmation from SpaceX, but that is what we are hearing at this point in time. And of course, we will keep you updated once we do get official confirmation of that. But again, this is gone from a potential double-header launch day down to a potential no launch day for SpaceX, as it appears that both the Falcon Heavy and Falcon 9 launches are standing down until at least tomorrow. Again, we are waiting for official word from SpaceX on the Falcon 9 launch, but we do have official confirmation from SpaceX on the Falcon Heavy that they are standing down tonight, as we've previously reported. I want to briefly thank Marcus Hurt for a $5 super chat. Is on our way to Haiti on the Symphony of Seas. I don't recall. I think that one may sail out of Port Canaveral, but I don't have their full ship list on the top of my head. But I think Symphony of Seas sails from Port Canaveral. It says, was hoping to see the launch out here in the middle of the ocean. Hopefully Falcon 9 tonight. Love the channel. Well, thank you so much, Marcus. Unfortunately, it sounds like the Falcon 9 will not be joining you out in the ocean tonight either. But we are again waiting for official word from SpaceX on that. But we are hearing that the Falcon 9 for the Starlink launch. And while we are still waiting for confirmation from SpaceX, we are getting word from the Brevard County Emergency Management Office. Brevard County, for those not familiar with Florida, is the county in which surrounds Cape Canaveral and NASA's Kennedy Space Center. They say, quote, we have deactivated our launch operations support team after scrubbed launches of the SpaceX Falcon Heavy and Falcon 9 rockets. So there you have it from Brevard EOC. Some good folks. Talked to them a number of times about various operations. They're actually in the process of expanding their office to handle more of the capabilities that are needed from them, as they are one of the busiest EOCs, not just in Florida, but in the whole United States, in no small part because of the launch operations that happen here at the Cape and their work to support those. So a tip of a hat to Brevard EOC. We appreciate the assisted confirmation in the scrub tonight. And with that, we are officially without either the Falcon Heavy or the Falcon 9 launches tonight. But again, tomorrow, still potentially a very busy day, as we will wait word from SpaceX if they are going to be targeting the launch of the Falcon Heavy tomorrow, if they are able to take advantage of that backup opportunity. If that is the case, we may also see the Falcon 9 launch tomorrow night as well. So be sure to keep tabs on our social media, X, as well as Threads and Facebook, for launch updates as they come. But to start off tomorrow, one thing we do know that is still on the books, on the far right-hand side, the ULA Vulcan rocket set for a tanking test, a wet dress rehearsal, after Friday's WDR wasn't able to be completed due to some ground system issues. ULA's President CEO Tory Bruno noting on social media that because they want to get through a full wet dress rehearsal, that is why the rocket is back out at the pad, and they are doing that test tomorrow. It also means that the Christmas Eve launch, he says, is, quote, likely off the books. They have a 3-day launch window at the end of this month for their maiden flight of the Vulcan rocket, sending Astrobotic's Peregrine lunar lander on its way to the moon. That window is the 24th, 25th, 26th. And if that is unable to be achieved, as is quite possibly the case with this delay. Their next launch window opens up in January on the 8th. Tory Bruno says it is about a 4-day window. And one of the payloads on board the Peregrine lander, a small lunar rover that was built by students up at Carnegie Mellon, noted that the window for Peregrine runs from January 8th through the 11th, which lines up with the 4-day opportunity that Tory Bruno noted on social media. So that is likely when Peregrine will launch on board Vulcan, is in that, I believe this is the second week of January. Should set up a very busy time for missions to the moon, as Intuitive Machines also looking to launch its first mission on the Nova C lander using a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. Going to go from the pad that you see there on the far left, Launch Complex 39A. So potentially, if all stays on schedule, we could have, or the new schedule as it may stand, we may have Vulcan launching on anywhere from the 8th to the 11th, and a Falcon 9 with Intuitive Machines launching anywhere from the 12th or the next few days thereafter. And that Nova C lander set to touch down just about a week later. I believe the 19th is its target landing date. Followed by the SLIM lander built by JAXA, Japan's space agency. And we are TBD now on when Astrobotic's lunar lander Peregrine will touch down on the moon, but the moon is a hot destination these days, so a lot of activity coming up. All that begins with the next fueling test set for tomorrow. So keep up to date with that by following us on our social media for that as well. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up for this evening, as we are now bereft of launch opportunities for both the Falcon Heavy and the Falcon 9. Want to thank all of you for spending part of your Monday with us. We wish you could have brought you a launch tonight, but unfortunately that was just not in the cards. Do want to thank our friends Chuck Briggs and Pete Carsons with Max Q Productions for standing by for support of tonight's launch. Of course, Michael Kane and Adam Bernstein for being right at the ready as always. Again, if you're not following them on X, you should. When we do have our next launch, be sure to keep an eye on their social medias for launch pictures from them, as they do have cameras set ready for remote opportunities for whenever this mission launches. Our Stephen Young, of course, running all the technical support and keeping this ship afloat and moving steadily forward. And we will naturally be back with you for live launch coverage whenever these missions are ready, and for all the missions that launch from here at Cape Canaveral. But for now, I'm Will Robinson Smith for Spaceflight Now. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. Sorry there wasn't a launch this time. We hope to bring you one next time. And we will see you next time. Good night. by students Pete Carsons with Max Q Productions for standing by for support of tonight's launch. Of course, Michael Caine and Adam Bernstein for